minasyaitonirrajim.
The film opens at Chitra girls' boarding school. Late at night in the hostel, Nurul wakes up for the midnight prayer, known as Kamalail. She also wakes Nisha, who asks where Putri is. Nurul says she's probably already gone to perform wudu. When Nisha refuses to get up, Nurul goes alone. A little later, Nisha finally gets up to make wudu. But as soon as she reaches the door of her room, the dormitory's main door suddenly creaks open on its own. Terrified, she runs back to her bed and hides under her blanket. After some time, Nurul returns and begins her prayer. The moment she starts, their room door slowly opens by itself. Hearing the sound, Nisha peeks through a gap in her blanket, but sees no one there. In the middle of her prayer, Nurul hears a woman's voice, which frightens her. Then the door shuts on its own again. As Nurul continues praying, she hears responses to every takbir she recites, like someone is standing right behind her, praying along with her. Suddenly, loud banging starts on the door. Despite her fear, Nurul somehow manages to complete her prayer. When she finally opens the door, she finds Putri standing outside, looking very strange. Without warning, Putri collapses unconscious. The scene cuts to a forensic morgue unit where a woman named Reneie is stitching up the neck of a dead body. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door. But when Reneie opens it, no one is there. She shrugs it off and goes back to work. Moments later, the lights begin to flicker. Annoyed, Reneie says no one should disturb her while she's working. The atmosphere suddenly goes quiet again, and she finishes her task. As she's cleaning herself, she sees a woman standing there. Calmly, Reneie says, "Farewell, miss," and in the very next second, the woman disappears. Meanwhile, back at the dormitory, Nurul secretly steals the key to the main gate, planning to escape. But as she tries to leave, she spots Miss Rosa and quickly hides. In the process, she accidentally drops the key. Once Miss Rosa leaves, Nurul rushes to the main gate, but when she checks her pocket, the key is gone. She goes back to retrieve it, but this time she doesn't find the key. Instead, she gets caught by Miss Rosa. Miss Rosa scolds her harshly and drags her back to the room, calling her ungrateful and reprimanding her for breaking the rules. We also see Putri again, who now appears completely normal. Miss Rosa then locks the girls' room from the outside. Seeing this, another staff member named Salamat requests her not to lock the room like that, warning that in case of a fire, the girls wouldn't be able to escape. But Miss Rosa ignores the concern completely. On the other side, after returning home from work, Reneie finds a notice on her door demanding that the rent be cleared by tomorrow. Meanwhile, back in the dormitory, Putri starts acting strangely again and becomes possessed by an evil spirit. Nisha is terrified and quickly wakes up Nurul. Seeing Putri in that condition, both of them panic and try to run out of the room, but the door has been locked from the outside by Miss Rosa, so they can't escape. Their screams are heard by Miss Kina, but she is sick, so she calls out to Salamat for help. At the same time, Putri stands up in a horrifying form, and suddenly, the door unlocks. The girls rush outside and hold the door shut from the outside while Putri tries to open it from inside. After a while, when things go quiet, they cautiously open the door, only to find Putri unconscious on the floor. Miss Rosa arrives, gets irritated seeing Putri possessed again, and slaps her. She lashes out at the girls, saying that because of their poor results, her vacation gets canceled and she's forced to stay in the hostel. She warns them that if they cause any more trouble, they'll regret it. Terrified, the girls promise to follow all the rules, just begging her not to lock them inside the room again. But Miss Rosa threatens that if they try to escape again, they won't just be expelled from school, they'll also be handed over to the police on theft charges. Out of fear, the girls agree to everything. Later, Rosa goes to meet the former headmistress, Mrs. Kina. When Kina asks about the students, Rosa calls them spoiled and criticizes Kina for being too soft on them. Kina tries to warn her about a mysterious danger in the school, but Rosa refuses to listen and instead tells her to go home and rest due to her illness. Meanwhile, the students decide they must find help somehow. They think about their religious teacher, Mr. Ganda, but the problem is they can't leave the school, and they don't even have his phone number. On the other hand, the next morning, Renie's landlord shows up to collect the remaining rent. When she fails to pay the full amount, orders her to vacate the house by that evening. With no other option, Reneie packs her bag and leaves. On the way, she meets Salamat, who is returning from somewhere. Reneie decides to go with him to her old boarding school. Salamat asks if she still works at the morgue, saying he feels she's wasting her talent there, but Reneie says she's happy with her job. Noticing the burn marks on her hand, he asks if they still hurt. When Reneie asks about Mrs. Kina, Salamat tells her that she misses her a lot. Salamat tells Reneie about the school's new headmistress, Miss Rosa. Rosa is a very strict and emotionless woman who has been divorced multiple times, and she can't stand students at all. Salamat then introduces the students. Nisha is bright, but an orphan. Putri often becomes a target of evil spirits, and ever since she arrived, the hostel has turned into a terrifying place. Lastly, he mentions Nurul, who is stubborn but has a very kind heart. Meanwhile, Miss Rosa asks Nurul to deliver food to Mrs. Kina. Reneie also mentions a girl named Ningsi, someone she lost contact with after leaving school. Suddenly, Reneie spots a woman on the road and asks Salamat to stop the car. Salamat is confused because he didn't see anyone. Reneie gets out to check, but there's no one there. Now Salamat is left wondering, what exactly did Reneie see? At the same time, Mrs. Kina is startled when she sees someone praying in her room. But when she looks again, there's no one there. She gets a little scared and tries to leave. But when she sees the door open on its own, she freezes in fear. Just then, Nurul arrives with the food. Because Mrs. Kina's speech aid device isn't working, she tries to explain through gestures that she saw someone praying. But Nurul says she can't see anyone there. Meanwhile, Salamat brings Reneie to the school. After 13 years, Reneie finally returns to her old school. As they walk inside, Salamat tells her that Mrs. Kina will be very happy to see her. When Reneie expresses a desire to see her old room, Salamat explains that Putri, Nurul, and Nisha now live there. Reneie enters the room and becomes emotional as memories flood back. This is where she and her friend Ningsi carved their names into the wall and promised to stay friends forever. Here she is introduced to Nurul and Nisha, and soon Putri joins them as well. Nisha asks Reneie a strange question. When she used to live here, did she ever see anything scary or supernatural? Nurul adds that spirits are often seen here during prayer time. Just then, Salamat brings in the new headmistress, Miss Rosa, and introduces her to Reneie. Reneie extends her hand for a handshake, but when Miss Rosa notices the burn marks on her hand, she refuses to shake it. Miss Rosa asks Reneie why she chose to work here as a volunteer tutor. With a sarcastic tone, Rosa taunts her, saying that since Reneie now works with dead bodies, can she even handle working with living people? Reneie calmly replies that she'll do her best and reminds her that one day, these living people will turn into dead bodies too. Rosa explains that there are no new rules here. They just need someone to strictly enforce the old ones. After that, Reneie goes to her room. The moment she sits on the bed, the wardrobe in front of her suddenly starts opening and closing on its own. Curious, Reneie steps closer, but then suddenly a girl appears behind her. Reneie notices a piece of cloth inside the wardrobe. As she picks it up to examine it, the girl suddenly rushes in from the side and pushes her. Reneie regains her balance, but when she looks back, the cloth is gone. Later, Reneie goes to meet Kina. The two get emotional upon seeing each other. Salamat explains that Kina's speech aid has stopped working again. After that, Reneie visits the 3 students working in the garden. She offers to help them with their household chores. Nisa tells her that during the holidays, only the 3 of them are staying in the hostel, so they have to do all the work themselves. She complains that Miss Rosa is very cruel. Nurul quickly warns Nisa to be careful with her words. If Rosa finds out, they'll be in serious trouble. Putri notices the burn marks on Reneie's hand and asks about them. Reneie says it was from an accident, but she doesn't remember much. All she recalls is waking up in a hospital with bandages wrapped around her. Just then, Miss Rosa arrives and rudely orders the students to start preparing lunch. Reneie notices her harsh behavior. The girls, terrified, immediately rush to the kitchen. After they leave, Reneie stays behind. Suddenly, She sees that same girl in white again and starts following her. The girl disappears behind a tree. Reneie follows, but when she gets there, no one is there. In the next scene, Nurul comes running in panic and tells Reneie that Putri has been possessed again, taken over by an evil spirit. Nurul says regretfully that she already told Miss Rosa, but she refuses to believe any of it. Meanwhile, Putri is screaming like a madwoman inside the room, yelling at everyone to get out. Reneie, terrified, slowly walks toward her. Suddenly, Putri collapses to the floor and starts writhing in pain. Right at that moment, the same woman who had attacked Reneie appears over Putri's body. But after a while, Putri returns to normal. Reneie tells Salamat to take Putri to a clinic, but Nurul insists that Putri isn't physically sick. Something supernatural is affecting her. Nurul suggests calling their religious teacher, Mr. Ganda. Just then, Miss Rosa arrives and refuses, saying there's no need to call anyone. She dismisses everything as nonsense and believes Putri is just pretending to be possessed so she can sleep. She orders the other two students to finish Putri's work and then leaves. After that, Reneie shares an incident from her experience working at a morgue. She explains that believing in the supernatural doesn't mean someone is mentally weak. Sometimes, spirits return to this world to say things they couldn't express to their loved ones while they were alive. Referring to a necklace, Reneie adds that nothing in this world happens without a reason. Every event has a purpose behind it. The students then ask Reneie if the spirit that stands behind them during prayers is also trying to tell them something. Reneie replies, maybe. Nurul then gives Reneie more details about Putri. She explains that students are usually allowed to go home only if they get good results. But despite performing well, Putri chose to stay in the hostel. Nurul reveals that Putri's grandmother was mentally ill and used to physically and emotionally torture her. Her mother died by suicide, and her sister has been missing for a long time. After hearing all this, Reneie decides to meet Mr. Ganda for help. She finds him teaching children inside a mosque, and as soon as he sees Reneie, he steps outside to speak with her. Reneie recognizes them and realizes that it's actually her old friend, Skinny. After that, Ganda dismisses the kids and starts talking to Reneie. Reneie tells Mr. Ganda that since the new academic year began, students have been falling victim to an invisible force, one that stands behind them during prayer like a follower. During the holidays, this presence has become even more violent. Ustad Ganda gives a religious explanation, saying that there are evil jinn called Kanjab who try to interfere with a person's worship and create distractions during prayer. He warns that unless someone has strong faith in Allah, this trouble won't stop. Reneie requests Ustad Ganda to visit the hostel and check everything himself, but he tells her to call only if the situation becomes serious. The scene cuts to night, where Mrs. Kina offers Reneie the position of headmistress of the school. Shocked, Reneie asks the reason behind this sudden offer. Miss Rosa witnesses everything. But while writing, Mrs. Kina's hand is suddenly grabbed by an unseen entity, though no one can actually see it. Terrified, Reneie calls Salamat. When he arrives, he finds that Kina's body has turned ice cold, so he rushes to get some hot water. Meanwhile, Nisha is too scared to go to the bathroom alone. She asks Nurul to come with her so they can perform wudu and pray Isha together. But Nurul is extremely tired and tells Nisha to go with Putri instead. Just then, Nisha spots Putri outside and follows her into the bathroom. As soon as Nisha knocks, the door opens on its own. Inside, she sees Putri showering behind the curtain. At the same time, Nurul wakes up and notices that Putri is actually sitting at the table, studying. The camera cuts back to the bathroom. Nisha pulls the curtain aside, but there's no one there. Panicking, she runs to open the door, but it won't budge. Suddenly, a stream of blood starts flowing, and something begins moving toward her from behind the curtain. Hearing Nisha scream, Nurul is the first to rush in. Then the camera focuses on Putri's drawing. It reveals something extremely terrifying that she has sketched. Soon, Putri arrives, followed by Reneie. When Reneie finally opens the door, she finds Nisha in a state of extreme fear and complete exhaustion. Reneie hugs her, trying to calm her down, reassuring her that everything will be okay now. Then Reneie calls Mr. Ganda and asks him to come immediately. Meanwhile, Headmistress Rosa is furious with Reneie. Mocking her, She sarcastically asks if she's now going to start making breakfast for the students too. Rosa makes it clear that the hostel has only one problem: lack of discipline. She orders Reneie that if she wants to stay here, she must enforce strict rules, make sure the girls finish their studies on time, and go to bed early. Reneie tries to explain that the students are not dealing with any normal problem, they are genuinely terrified. She tells Rosa that an evil spirit has been following them multiple times, but Rosa refuses to believe in any of this supernatural talk. Still, Reneie firmly insists that she trusts the girls. Then the scene cuts to Mrs. Kina's room, where suddenly the evil spirit jumps on her. At the same time, Reneie is offering tahajjud prayer. Out of nowhere, that entity appears behind her and starts praying as well. Reneie senses its presence but continues her prayer. As soon as she finishes and lifts her head, the entity appears right in front of her. Just then, Salamat rushes in and tells Reneie to come with him quickly because Mrs. Kina is nowhere to be found. On the other side, Mrs. Kina shows up in front of Miss Rosa. Rosa is shocked to see her standing on her feet. Suddenly, Mrs. Kina grabs Rosa by the throat, and something comes out of Kina's mouth and enters Rosa's mouth. Both of them collapse unconscious. But after a few moments, Rosa opens her eyes again. Soon after, Salamat arrives and tells Miss Rosa that Mrs. Kina is missing from her room. But the moment Reneie reaches there, Rosa slams the door shut in her face. Still, Reneie and Salamat continue searching for Mrs. Kina. Reneie explains that Mrs. Kina's lower body is paralyzed, so she can't go far from the school area. Salamat then reminds Reneie about the horrific fire accident that happened years ago. He says that not everyone could be saved that day, and what's happening in the hostel now might be connected to that tragedy. He also reveals that Reneie was the best friend of the girl who went missing back then. That's why Mrs. Kina had called her here. Just then, Reneie notices Putri walking in a strange, unnatural way and tries to go after her. But Salamat stops her, saying he will handle Putri and asks Reneie to go to Mrs. Kina's room and check a box kept under the bed, something Kina wanted to discuss with her. Saying this, Salamat goes off to find Putri and eventually finds her lying unconscious. He tries to wake her up. Right then, Miss Rosa suddenly appears from behind and attacks Salamat with a pair of scissors. Salamat tries to fight her off, but Rosa brutally stabs both of his hands with the scissors. Meanwhile, following Salamat's instructions, Reneie pulls out a box from under Mrs. Kina's bed. Inside, she finds old newspaper clippings about a fire accident. She's shocked to discover that after that incident, her best friend Nings went missing. The scene shifts into a flashback. Nings asks Reneie if she can join her in prayer as a follower, and Reneie agrees. After the prayer, Nings goes to sleep, but Reneie decides to keep praying a little longer. Soon after, a fire breaks out in the dormitory where Nings is sleeping. Reneie and Salamat rush to save her, but Reneie's hands get burned in the flames. The scene returns to the present, where suddenly, the power goes out. Reneie lights a lamp, but moments later, she hears a strange noise and gets startled. Out of nowhere, something grabs her leg and drags her down, causing her to fall. The lamp tips over, starting a fire. Reneie loses consciousness and slips back into the past. She now sees Nings returning to the room after prayer, lighting the lamp and falling asleep. After some time, the lamp sets the window curtains on fire. Within moments, the flames spread across the entire room and Nings is burned alive. Back in that moment, Ganda arrives and sees the room engulfed in flames. He somehow manages to get inside and pulls Reneie out. Meanwhile, in the students' room, a violent wind starts blowing unnaturally. Terrified, Nurul and Nisha wake up. Suddenly, their door slams shut on its own. Outside, Ganda and Reneie run into Salamat and Putri. Reneie demands to know what's going on. Salamat reveals that the headmistress, Miss Rosa, has been possessed by an evil spirit. Overcome with guilt, Salamat breaks down, admitting that all of this is his fault. Reneie then asks the question, did Nings really die by burning alive? After 13 years, Salamat finally confesses the truth. Yes, she did. Another flashback begins. Salamat and Mrs. Kina had found Nings's body. Afraid of being blamed and of the school being shut down, they secretly buried her without telling anyone. But the horrifying truth is, Nings was still alive at the time. She was buried alive. Salamat further reveals that Putri, who lives in the hostel, is actually Ning's younger sister. That's why Ning's spirit is using Putri as a medium spreading terror throughout the hostel. Ever since Putri arrived, the paranormal activity has only intensified. Salamat apologizes to Reneie for hiding the truth and lying all this time. Meanwhile, Ning's spirit starts tormenting Nurul and Nisha. Hearing their screams, Mr. Ganda rushes to help. He tries to open the door from outside, but suddenly Ning appears before him. Her terrifying scream weakens him instantly, and he gets thrown back violently. Gathering his strength, Ganda begins reciting verses from the Holy Quran to fight the evil force. As he does, Ning's spirit finally disappears. After that, Ganda opens the door and rescues Nurul and Nisa. Just then, Miss Rosa shows up. Ustad Ganda immediately realizes that Rosa is not in control of herself. He commands the spirit to leave Miss Rosa's body, but instead, Rosa grabs Nurul and lifts him up into the air. At that moment, Reneie starts speaking directly to Ning's spirit. She tells her that the girls are innocent. Reneie pleads with Ning's to forgive Mrs. Kina and Mr. Salamat, explaining that the fire was just an accident. Hearing this, Ning's releases Nurul. Ganda then recites Bismillah and prays for protection from harmful spirits and the tormented souls of the burned. He begins reciting verses from the Holy Quran, first Surah Ikhlas. Then, seeking refuge from the evil of the dark night, black magic, and those who cast spells, he recites Surah al-Falaq. Finally, to protect from the evil whispers of humans and jinn, he completes the recitation of Surah an-Nas. Gradually, Miss Rosa starts returning to her normal state. But suddenly, the lights go out again, and Ning's reappears in her true form. To banish the evil once and for all and declare the supreme power of Allah, Ustad Ganda passionately recites Ayat al-Kursi. As a result, Ning's spirit burns in flames once again and disappears. After this, they begin searching for Mrs. Kina. Miss Rosa says the last thing she remembers is Mrs. Kina entered her room and attacked her, after which she lost consciousness. Ganda eventually finds Mrs. Kina hiding under the bed. The next day, Mrs. Kina announces that the school board has decided to appoint Reneie as the new headmistress. The former headmistress, Miss Rosa, has been transferred to another school. Rosa tells Reneie that she shouldn't feel guilty about taking her place. Later, Mrs. Kina apologizes to Putri for everything she has done. She then reveals to Reneie and Putri that Ning's was buried without proper rituals under a large tree in the courtyard in front of the main building. Reneie and Putri go there, and Reneie promises that Ning's will now be reburied with proper religious rites. She prays for Ning's soul to finally find peace. The story then jumps 2 years ahead. The hostel now has a peaceful and cheerful atmosphere. All the students gather together to take a group photo. Reneie asks everyone to stand properly and smile. In this happy moment, as they count 1, 2, 3, and the photo is taken, the movie comes to an end. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Also subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.